The General Labor Confederation of Argentina goes on its second 24-hour national strike against the reforms promoted by President Javier Milei. In Brazil, the rains in Rio Grande do Sul have left 107 people dead so far, while a record number of 136 people were reported missing due to the flooding. And in Palestine, intense Israeli attacks on East Rafah have left dozens of people killed. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. The General Labor Confederation of Argentina goes on its second 24-hour national strike against the reforms promoted by President Javier Milei. According to a statement of the workers' union, the strike aims at defending labor and social rights, as well as demanding a living wage. The workers also denounced the adjustment carried out by the executive, allegedly in favor of the market freedom, pointing out that this especially affects the lower income sectors, the middle class, and retirees. Transport unions are also taking part in the strike. Therefore, subway, train, and bus services are affected, as interruptions in the flights of Aerolíneas Argentinas are also expected. We continue in Argentina, where neighbors and activists of the LGBT community held a vigil for the crime committed last Monday against two lesbian couples in the city of Buenos Aires. During the assault, a man set fire to a room where the couples lived, and two women died from the resulting burns. On Wednesday, 100 people gathered in silence in front of the site of the crime and lit candles in an improvised vigil. Since taking office in December, Milei closed the Ministry of Women and the National Institute Against Discrimination and banned inclusive language in all public administration communications. Citizens, human rights organizations, and LGBT activists accused the government of promoting hate speech that moves from the social networks to the streets.
A few days before all this, there had been a hate speech made by an author of one of the books that the government is supporting and which was legitimized by the government. It shows that openly there is a hidden hate campaign, but there is a hate campaign, indeed, that is becoming more and more visible.
The Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, announced that the country experienced an important growth in the commercial sector. The Venezuelan Vice President pointed out that during 2023, commerce grew by 4% with the opening of more than 19,000 new commercial establishments. Rodriguez also informed that electronic commerce in the country grew by more than 150%. The high official pointed out that Venezuela managed to increase the number of supplies in spite of the unilateral coercive measures imposed by the United States. In other news, AstraZeneca withdrew its COVID-19 vaccine after acknowledging in court documents that it can cause a rare side effect. The Venezuelan government had already denounced this, refusing to receive the vaccine back in 2021. The fact could pave the way for a multi-million-pound legal payout. The pharmaceutical giant is being sued in a class action over claims that the vaccine developed by the Oxford University caused serious death and injuries in dozens of cases. It's TTS, thrombosis syndrome with thrombocytopenia, that causes blood clots and low platelet counts. Meanwhile, in Venezuela's Sucre municipality, citizens rallied in support of candidate and President Nicolás Maduro. Vice President of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, led a massive mobilization in support of the re-election of the Venezuelan president. Social movements took part in this rally in support of the candidate who, in their opinion, represents the choice of the Venezuelan people against the candidate who represents the interests of the U.S. government. Demonstrators also rejected the imposition of U.S. unilateral coercive measures against the country.
We have come to visit you, to see your faces, to greet you, to hug you with love, with respect, with admiration to a people that never surrenders, never, ever. The liberator came to Trujillo state when history was at its worst, and here his morale soared. Father Bolivar signed in Trujillo state the regularization of the war and the armistice document written by Antonio José de Sucre. The name of your municipality. But here Bolivar came with his known values to mountains that he knew like no one else. Here, in this state, the liberating army was recognized for the first time by the Spanish invaders.
And now we move on to other topics. In Brazil, the rains in Rio Grande do Sul left 107 people dead so far, and a record number of 136 people were reported missing due to the effects of the flooding. The state civil department informed on Thursday that more than 164,000 people are homeless, while another 66,761 have been transferred to shelter centers. According to local authorities, after carrying out evaluations on the water level, it was shown that it rose about 3 centimeters, so that it is estimated that floods will continue in the coming days. In this sense, the civil defense advised the population not to return to the flooded areas and also emphasized that rescue efforts are still continuing to find more missing victims. In the same context, more than 700 people have been evacuated in Uruguay as a result of heavy rains and floods. According to the country's national emergency system, the rains and floods have blocked roads and affected the water and power supplies in several regions of the South American nation. On the other hand, the Meteorological Institute issued an alert on the rains and storms that are expected in the next few days. Meanwhile, in Honduras, the Secretariat of Risk Management and National Contingencies declared a red alert due to high atmospheric pollution in Tegucigalpa, the capital of the country. The authorities reported that there is poor air quality due to a dense layer of smoke that affects the health of the capital's population. This situation is caused by the burning of land for agricultural purposes in the region, some forest fires, and pollution from vehicle emissions. The institution declared a green alert for the rest of the country for an indefinite period to monitor the phenomenon and protect people's health. And in El Salvador, weather authorities recorded temperatures of up to 40 degrees Celsius, the highest so far this year. Authorities of the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources reported that high temperatures have been maintained since April, representing an unprecedented record of over 41 degrees Celsius during the next few days, especially in the afternoon and early evening. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Palestine, intense Israeli attacks on East Rafah have left dozens of people killed and thousands displaced. After the latest escalation in attacks launched by Israeli aircraft, thousands of Palestinians have been forced to take dangerous evacuation routes to central Gaza. More than 80,000 people have been displaced from Rafah alone in recent days, according to UN World Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Simultaneously, Israeli forces besieged the city of Gaza, where they attacked at least 10 homes in the Satan neighborhood, killing and wounding dozens, as was reported by Wafa news agency. Since the beginning of the genocidal aggression in Gaza, Israel has killed over 34,904 people, most of them being women and children. At the same time, several towns in the occupied West Bank suffered violent assaults by the Israeli occupation army, ending with the detention of at least 25 Palestinians. The occupation forces stormed the areas of Bethlehem, Ramallah, Hebron, Jenin, Nablus, Salfit, and Jerusalem, conducting home searches, tampering with their belongings, and arresting citizens. The number of Palestinian prisoners in the West Bank has risen to more than 8,665 since the start of the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip on October 7th. Meanwhile, in the United States, police forces detained students on pro-Palestinian rallies in Washington, D.C. Just hours after students marched to the home of the president of the George Washington University, police arrested around 33 students at a pro-Palestinian protest held to ratify the rejection of Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Tensions escalated in the clashes with the forces, which had triggered widespread repudiation in the student community. In the United States, progressive House Democrats joined students from George Washington University to condemn police attempts to disable protest camps against Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people.
Students are protesting all across the country because they believe our government has failed to recognize the common humanity of all people. They're protesting because they oppose our government's silence and complicity in the deaths of at least 35,000 Palestinians. They are protesting our government's complicity in a genocide and humanitarian crisis of famine, disease, and other pervasive suffering.
Likewise, Palestinian U.S. lawmaker Rashida Tlaib assured the students are asking to save their human lives.
Faith or ethnicity.
That's right.
This is something that I feel like is being completely ignored. Why are they out there? This is why we're proud. We're proud to use our position in office to bring these voices so you all don't forget why there are encampments, why there are movements in dissent around this country.
Similarly, students in Belgium held demonstrations in support of the Palestinian people and against the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Protesters demanded the university authorities to break off ties with Israel on Thursday morning. Students have taken over different areas of the university in order to make their demands heard. It is worth highlighting that these rallies in support of the Palestinian cause have been reported in several university campuses around Europe.
We therefore have three main demands. The first is an end to all links and collaboration between the ULB and Israel. The second is a transparent list of all these links, because we are not sure that we are aware of all the links there are, so that we can have a critical opinion and be able to give our verdict on them. Thirdly, we call on the cancellation of the visit of the former Israeli ambassador to our campus, who has been invited by the rector.
And also in Panama, several organizations gathered in front of one of the main universities in the country to show solidarity with Palestine. The demonstration was a cultural rally where people expressed their support to the Palestinian cause. Participants also asked the government to cease relations with Israel and indicated that they joined the worldwide movement to demand the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. It is worth highlighting that Palestine has been supportive of Panama in the past, when the nation asked for international backup to recover the canal in the 70s.
They want to exterminate all of the Palestinian people to take over the Gaza Strip. That is illegal. It is a crime against humanity. Let's put ourselves in the place of all those young people. I will not end the day here telling you what the Israeli army did in Gaza, in a hospital a few days ago. Well, a few weeks ago, the wounded people were lying on the floor outside the hospital because, of course, there are no beds and there is nothing in those bombed hospitals. And with tanks, they pass over the wounded. Young soldiers of Israel, that is the government that poisoned their brains.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In the framework of his trip to Russia, President of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, met with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in a bilateral meeting in Moscow. The Russian leader thanked the Cuban president for his presence at the military parade on the occasion of the 79th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War of 1941-1945, and welcomed Cuba's participation as an observer in the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council, as he emphasized that Moscow rejects U.S. attempts to curb Cuba's development through sanctions. In turn, Díaz-Canel referred to NATO's rapprochement to the Russian borders and the geopolitical manipulation being carried out by the U.S. We stay in Russia, as during his Victory Day speech, President Vladimir Putin assured that his country is committed to avoiding a global confrontation as well as defending itself against any threat.
We reject claims of exclusivity by any state or alliance. We note what the exorbitance of such ambition leads to. Russia will do everything possible to avoid global confrontation. But at the same time, we will not allow anyone to threaten us. Our strategic forces are always ready for combat.
In this context, the Russian president thanked the presence of current and historical allies to his nation, such as Cuba.
We remember the contribution to the fight against Nazism by the allies of the anti-Hitler coalition, participants in the convoys of the Lend-Lease program, which, by the way, included Cuba. We are glad to see the president of this country, Mr. Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, on this solemn day with all of us. In the presence of the president of Laos, Thongloun Sisoulith, we welcome the people of the countries where on-the-ground members of the National Liberation Movement were active during the Second World War. Their struggle became the prologue to the emergence of independent sovereign states in Asia, which today play a growing role in the global economy and world affairs.
In North Macedonia, the nationalist opposition won the parliamentary and presidential elections. The right-wing candidate Jordana Silva Novka-Davkova led with 64.84% of the votes against the 29.29% amassed by Stevo Pendarovski, the current president and candidate of the Social Democratic Union of Macedonia, the ruling party. According to analysts, the return to power of the right-wing opposition in the Balkan nation of 1.8 million inhabitants may fuel tensions with Greece and especially with Bulgaria, which is blocking negotiations for North Macedonia accession to the European Union due to ethno-linguistic issues.
I will behave as a president for all citizens, for all ethnic groups, members of all parties, people not affiliated to any party. No president can ask for unity, especially a woman, if she holds a party line. That is why the doors of my office are open to all.
And on Wednesday, Cuba's 31st edition of the Artistic Youth Festival came to a close after 7 days of concerts, exhibitions, and cultural expressions from the participating countries. The closing of the Romerías de Mayo took place with the planting of a new tree of friendship in the city of Holguín. The multicultural event concluded with a closing show where delegates from 10 nations bid farewell to this edition and called for the next one. Shouts for peace in support of the Palestinian people, book presentations, and more than 20 parallel events were held during the 31st edition of the Artistic Youth Festival. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.